Hi all you lot. Back on, we're doing the gearbox again, and I've got a bit further. Right, as you can remember, I was trying to drill the holes so the backing plate would line up with the gearbox and the engine in the right place. Since then, as you can see, I've had to attach bolts. So what I've done, I've drilled into this, tapped it, threaded it, and then welded it from the back. I've left a little space, you can see that doesn't go into the gearbox, it's all on the plate. Same with the starter motor, as you can see, those don't line up, so I threaded it, welded it at the back, put a bolt in, and there we go. And same with that one, because obviously I can't have a nut head here to hold that on. I put some threaded bar in there. So what I need to do now is take this off the gearbox, mount it onto the engine, put the flywheel on, put the starter motor on, and see if it turns, because if the starter motor's misaligned, it's just gonna chew the teeth on the starter and on the flywheel. So I've still got a bit of movement, not that you can see because I've tightened it up. And of course the other thing I've had to do, I've had to chop out for the starter motor to go here, because when the gearbox was the other way around, the starter motor went there, and if I'd have put the starter motor at the bottom through the bolts that hold the starter motor in place, I'd be hitting the sump. So we'll see how it goes. Right, back again. As you can see, I've now made the back plate onto the engine, and I've put the flywheel on, so I've got to put the starter motor on next and then connect it to a battery and try. The other thing you'll see is that I've countersunk those, so when the gearbox goes on it doesn't interfere with anything. But the problem was here, it weren't threaded. So again, I've put a bolt in, cut the end off and welded it and flattened it off, not that you can see properly, and it goes all the way through, and a nut at the back. The other thing I've had to do, this is one of the bolts for the starter motor, and because where that white line is there, that's going to be the edge of the gearbox. I've just had to take the edge off so it doesn't interfere. But we'll put the starter motor on and try it. Right, so I've just tightened down the battery. I've got nothing going to the ignition coils because I've got no fuel connected anyway. So here goes. And if I've got it right, it don't jam the starter up. Right, I think I've got a loose connection somewhere. Yep. Try and pop you out, you hopefully can see. I think it's that's my loose connection. Yeah, that's all it is, it's a loose connection, because again, if it were anything else it wouldn't have spun at all. So we shall see. Yeah, because now it's not doing nothing. It's not even throwing the dog out. And again, it wanted to turn it then. Yeah. Yeah, it's a bad connection. But, yeah, and it's all there because I can feel the heat coming off it. So, we know it spins. And we know it works. And now I can't see a damn thing. Can anybody else see anything? Well, we'll wait and see. Right, back again. I fitted the flywheel, and I've also, when I say I fitted the flywheel, down here I've made a little tool that I've put a bolt through there to hold the flywheel still while I torque the bolts up. So that's the first thing. The other thing is, how do you fit, yes I know it's rusty, cruddy and horrid, how do you fit this when it floats if you've not got the correct tool? Now, the way I've always done it, I've got a bolt and I've put, or a drill bit or whatever, and I've wrapped masking tape round. So we know that that is now the right size to go in there. And this little collar is the right size. Right size exactly to go in there. So I shove that in. Try that again. And then, yeah, there is a little bit of wiggle room, but not much. It'll get me within the ballpark. And then the next thing I've got to do put the pressure plate on, which the pressure plate goes on because there's a little pin there that goes in there, so I know it goes that way around. This is going to be fun without trapping my fingers, Venus. I've only got one hand. Like that. Now I've just got to put the 6 bolts in, and then we'll see whether the gearbox goes on or not. So, see you shortly. Right, the moment of truth. Oh. What's in the way? Ah. Right, Houston, we have a problem. I believe that the bolts I've drilled are all lined up, but I can't get the gearbox on. Why? But the reason why I think it's lined up is, I'm going to turn the camera. Right, those there are my drive shafts. Okay, so keep your eye on them. You can turn it over, the gearbox isn't jumping up and down. It's where it should be, it just won't go on. And what I mean by it won't go on, for some reason I've got a huge gap. And I just can't get it bolted up properly. So we'll wait and see. I think that I'm going to take the gearbox back off. Turn it around. I'm going to take the gearbox back off, and then I'm going to see if I put the pressure plate in. The pressure plate in the right way around, because that could be what's stopping it. And if it's not the pressure plate, it's the angle I've got the gearbox at, and the clutch release bearing slipped and jammed. I don't know. So we'll see in a moment. Well, I finally got the gearbox on. I've literally drilled holes to put a tiny camera through to see whether things weren't lined up right. And after scratching my head for about a day and a bit, because I weren't fighting with it, lifting it on and off all the time, what it was that bolt that was bent down ever so slightly, and it was stopping from sliding it on. But that's all it was, because I put my camera in and it was just not hitting the right place on the clutch plate. But just to give you some idea, I have tried the clutch and it does disengage it, but it's turning everything nicely now, so hopefully that'll do the job. However, there is a downside to this. Yes, I've proved that I've got it going, or rather that I've got the gearbox mounted where I want it, but I cannot prove that whether I'm slightly out or whatever. The only way of telling is by trying it, and if it destroys the clutch pressure plate very quickly, I know I've got a problem. So, to put it in a nutshell, thank you very much for sticking with me. As I say, I knew I weren't so far out at all, but sometimes a miss is as good as a mile, and when we're talking maybe a millimetre, and you can't actually move the gearbox side to side when you can, it's a normal, as you're putting on a gearbox in a normal situation, because I've got bolts protruding this way. It's a bit different when you can turn one or the other, but because I've got so many bolts coming this way, it either had to slide on or it didn't. Simple as. So yeah, thanks a lot, much appreciated, and I'll see you soon. Bye.